5 minutes. Okay, everyone wants to look this way. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Well done. You're still here. My name is Ben. I work... Hi. Hello. That's okay, don't worry. I'm not like a teacher. My name is Ben. I'm excited. Just a quick question to lots of you, by the way. Was anyone in the bar last night till like 10 o'clock in the evening? 11 o'clock? Yeah, keep your arm up. I was just talking to some people. Midnight? I love this. Some people are like, I was, but I'm not going to put my arm. I know you were. You told me 1 in the morning. Like, past 1, past 2. I get that for some of you, 8 hours ago, you were still in here drinking. So my promise to you is we will spend 29 minutes, if I can do it in 29 minutes, trying to give you ideas and energy on one of my favourite topics. My name is Ben. I work at Bright Spot. Maybe you've heard of Bright Spot. Don't worry if you haven't. I can see some friendly faces here. Our whole job is to hunt out times when people get extraordinary results across the world of fundraising in a whole host of different ways, and then help other people learn them. One of the best ways we do that is with our podcast episodes. We've even got podcast alumni like Paul here in the room and others. So even if the only thing you take from today is, I should listen to the podcast, because in half an hour it could help me with my lottery fundraising, then you might want to listen to it. Today's session is all about a particular book called The Power of Moments. The Power of Moments. Maybe you are aware of this, but each moment in life is not equal. I used to think that I needed to work hard and be perfect at everything, all the time. The experience that my donor has from the moment they sign up to the lottery, to what we do when we talk to them, to how we celebrate if they win, to how we try and increase their amount, everything is so important all the way along. And the interesting truth of this book is a disproportionate amount of time... Ooh, it's flown... That's not my slide. Ooh. Good. The interesting thing about this book is a disproportionate amount of time in some areas makes quite a big impact. We're going to see those areas in just a minute. Woohoo! So the book, one of the best examples that brings it to life is this. This is a hotel in LA called the Magic Castle Hotel. Now, when I say hotel, it is actually a 3-star motel. You know, you can imagine it. Swimming pool, rooms around the outside. The only time I've ever seen things like that is in, like, Ozarks, or when people are running from the villains on an American film. Like, it's that sort of place. It's not as bad as I'm making it out, but it's regularly in the top 10 hotels in the whole of LA on TripAdvisor. Now, that's not normal. When you're looking for those top 10 hotels are normally like boutique hotels, right? Like fashionable, like unbelievable ones, honeymoon-style hotels. So the question is, how does the Magic Castle get up there? Well, they deliberately spend time in certain moments, trying to see if they can make an impact. The best example, I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I have noticed early on in my life when I didn't have kids, my holiday was about cool, relaxing places, you know, one of those swimming pools that looks out over onto the sea, and it's relaxing, and it's all about me and my wife, and it's nice. Now I've learned my happiness on holiday is dictated by how happy my children are. That basically seems to be what... So now I go on holiday to those places I would never imagine going, with those slides and things. When my children are bickering on holiday, I don't know if it's the same with yours, I am a lazy parent. The easiest thing I can do is just buy them some ice cream. And when I'm on holiday by the pool, the easiest way to buy ice cream is to see the cafe, and you go up to the cafe, and they've got this big menu with loads of different options, and whatever my daughter wants, my son doesn't want, and they have this argument, and they finally pick, and as we get to the front of the queue, they're hot, they're hungry, they don't have that ice cream. Like, there's this script for how things get done. At the Magic Castle Hotel, if your children are bickering, and you think, I just want them to be a bit of excitement, I want them to stop bickering, you point them to the corner of the pool, and when they walk over there, they pick up a phone on the popsicle hotline. And on the popsicle hotline, as they pick it up, somebody on the other end of the line says, hello, popsicle hotline, what flavors would you like today? Here's the 4 we've got. And little Jimmy is so excited. He's like, well, I'll have a lemonade one, please. And 5 minutes later, somebody walks out with a metal tray with the lemonade ice cream on it. And this is there's a couple of other things they do, but the interesting thing about that hotel, they are booked up for 6 months. Like, there's not much else they do, but they've decided in our journey of our customers, there'll be a few peak moments we will create. Does that make sense? Peak moments. Today is about understanding why targeting those can be so valuable to you. Like, share some ideas that others have used so that you can be energized to try this out from now on. because I think there's peak moments that you might even know when someone chooses to sign up to the lottery, when they start giving, when they hit a milestone, when they might even win. There's peak moments that you can celebrate the most. Another example from the book, many people have not heard when they're from this country of Southwest Airlines. They're a US airline that flies almost entirely internal. They are famous because the flight attendants get to do whatever they want for 2 minutes during this flight safety announcement video. So at their point, when they're doing the 2 minutes, they could do a rap, they could do a play, they could do a song, they can do whatever they want. Some of them do just do it normally. Others do it like this. When Chip and Dan, the authors of the book, when they heard about Southwest Airlines, they were like, this sounds like peak moments to me. And free peak moments, because it's not even that it costs you more money. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just a choice. Will the flight attendant do this or not? So they asked Southwest Airlines, do you have any data that shows if a flight attendant does a funny safety announcement, will the customer have a different long-term interaction with you? And Southwest Airlines had never looked at that, but they spent 2 years analysing the data. This is what they found. If a loyal customer heard a funny safety announcement, then they flew 1/2 flight more over the next year than those who did not. I appreciate none of us want to fly a half flight, but you know what I mean. Like, on the equivalent of money spent, they spent a half more, which means accidental funny moments was earning them $70 million a year, a choice to do a funny moment. So they said, it's accidental at the moment. What if you just ask the attendants, try and double it? What happens if we double it? Would that be worth $140 million? I don't know, but you see how it's worth testing that out? Like, for me, I think there's a recipe in your lotteries and in other experiences that has worked, and our job will be, can we find that? And what if we intensify and see if we can change that? If you're interested in more value on this, there's a satisfaction scale. Number 1 means 1 and 2, I'm complaining. It's not been a good experience. I didn't enjoy it. 6 and 7, I am a raving fan. Like, you know what they're like. They're going to tell their friends, they're going to tell their friends' friends, they absolutely love you. There's a study that says there's 2 different strategies broadly to how you interact and where you spend your money. One of them is plan A. I'm going to do all I can to eliminate the negatives. Make sure that nobody ever complains, or if they do complain, I'm going to do all my energy to just shift them to have an average time. Be okay with us. Does that make sense? 3 out of 4, that's okay with us. Now, I'm not saying create a system that's rubbish. Make sure it works, but 80% of companies and time and energy and charities is spent doing that. Plan B is, what can I do if I elevate the positives? If I focus on the normal experience we're doing, but pick some disproportionate areas and choose to elevate them, make them slightly different. Here's what the Forrester research found about 9 years ago. If you elevate the positives, plan B, you earn 9 times more than if you eliminate the negatives. 9 times more. Like, honestly, read the book. It's an excellent book. It's not a charity fundraising book. It's a book about journeys and helping customers, teachers, learners, anyone to actually remember and act on it. Good surprises are valuable. So what does this mean? How can we help you create or notice or build peak surprises? Does that make sense? Like, that's what we're most interested in. Now, one of the best ways to do this is to break the script. We have a script for how we expect things to be done. So there's a script for what happens when I sign up to the lottery. There's a script for what happens when someone approaches me. I was at a fair when I signed up to the lottery that I did through a hospice. There's a script of what they expect happens when a customer comes up to them. Moments start with when we break this script. There's a script for what I imagine when I walk into a cafe, when I know I need to pay for something. Like, I pick up my sandwich, I walk up to the till, I pay for it. There's a script for what we expect happens. The easiest way to create a peak moment is to break that script. There's a script for what I expect a funny safety announcement to be. There's a script for what I expect when I buy ice cream. Does that make sense? Break the script. So the book, this is one of my favourite examples. This is Joshi the giraffe. Some people have heard of Joshi the giraffe, maybe if you listen to our podcasts or been on our training. Others might not. But Joshi, for my daughter, she's 10, she still has her little soft toy called Eeyore. You know Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh? Like, she takes Eeyore everywhere. Like, Eeyore, maybe you have children and they had their own soft toy. Maybe they're older now and you wish they still had the soft toy. But for my daughter, it's Eeyore. And we know if we leave Eeyore anywhere, we are in trouble. Don't tell Orla, but we've got 9 Eeyores. Like, although she can tell the difference because one of them is this chewy, horrible mess with holes in his ears. Eeyore. For this child, it was Joshy the giraffe. And his parents, on the way back from dropping their son from having a holiday, leaving the hotel, they're in the cab, they're on the way back. And their son's like, where's Joshy? And they both look at each other. I thought you packed Joshy. No, I thought you packed Joshy. And I imagine there was a nice conversation. Let's call it a conversation between the parents. And then they realised, we're too far from the hotel, too close to the airport. We have to get our flight. So they called the hotel. Look, we've managed our son's expectations. Good charity speak. We've managed our son's expectations. We've said Joshy is going on an extended holiday. Please, can you find Joshy? And if you do find Joshy, we will pay to get him delivered back. Whatever the cost is to deliver, we will pay it back. Please, can you do that? So what happened? By the way, this has happened with us, with Eeyore, and a few days later, Eeyore appeared in like a jiffy bag, scrunched up, and we just opened it up, but we were just happy to get Eeyore, right? What happened here? A few days later, there was a knock at the door with the postman holding a package that was too big to fit through the letterbox, like a shoebox, right? And it had their son's name on it, and it was wrapped up. And they handed it to their son, and he opened it up, and when he opened the lid, there, sitting on a styrofoam bed, was Joshy the giraffe. And under his paw was a little photo album. And in that photo album were little photos of Joshy on a sun lounger, using the security cart, in the security room. I like this one. Someone's cut cucumbers to put on his eye. My favourite thing about this one, by the way, here's lots of them. My favourite thing about this is someone that day was sitting there with a knife and a cucumber chopping, and their colleague said, "What are you doing that for?" They're like, "The bear." Can you imagine the culture of this hotel? Just to be clear, I can already hear the finance director questioning, "Should you be spending your time doing that?" Here's what happened. I've got these photos because this story went viral, and the hotel ended up getting more booked up. But I don't believe for 1 second that the member of staff who made the decision to make this happen thought, let's do this because we'll get a better return on investment. I don't think they did that. I think what they did was place themselves in the shoes of the parent and the child. That's what they did. They didn't think of it from their point of view. They thought of it from the point of view of the player, of the child, of the family. How would it feel? And what's the little thing I can do that will just brighten their day? Does that make sense? And just with a few choices, this didn't take them long, but I bet it was more fun. So we've analysed this and had a look at what happens when people in charities do this, and we've got some cool results that have happened. One of my favourite things about this technique is in the industry of hospitality, as I'm sure anyone from this hotel will tell you, it can feel quite stressful. But on any moment when you choose to do an act like this instead of your normal act, you feel better that day. The phone calls you make are better that day. The handwritten cards are better that day. Anyway, has anyone ever gone to Pret-a-Manger here? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Has anyone ever, when they've gone to Pret and ordered a coffee or a drink or a cake or whatever, they were given it for free? Somebody gave them it for free. They said, "Oh, you don't have to pay this time." None of you. I'm really sorry. Sometimes when I'm in a room of about 50 people, about 5 of them have had a free Pret coffee or tea. Maybe your colleague has at some point. If you work at Pret, you are allowed twice a day to give out free tea and free coffee to 2 people. That's it. As long as it's not the same 2 people and not at the same time each day. And often they do it with someone who they felt pity on. So that makes sense because you walked into Pret like this. Yeah, man. Don't pity me. So I get it now. I see why you didn't get a free coffee. But when I've done this in a room, someone has once said, do you know, when I said this, not that they pitied them, that they just felt like they needed something good that day. So Rob Woods, founder of Bright Spot and my good friend, he had a ligament injury for many years and he was on his crutch. And he did a day's training. He was utterly exhausted. He was carrying his bag and all this stuff. And he went into Pret and he went up to pay and they gave it to him for free. And I can see why, because he said, I just must have looked exhausted. Somebody else said, it was my gran's funeral. I loved my gran. And I walked into Pret, and I didn't realise, but I must have just looked like I needed a free tea or coffee, but that's when they gave it to me. Somebody else said I was in Glasgow. I got caught in a downpour, I got torrentially soaked, walked into Pret, they gave me a free tea or coffee. I like that. I did this once, and Lucy, who's a great fundraiser, she said, I used to work at Pret. I worked at Pret-a-Manger in Gatwick Airport. That's where I worked. It's true. We used to be able to give away 2 teas or coffees or whatever each day. And one of her colleagues said, Lucy, how did you decide? What did you pick? And without skipping a heartbeat, Lucy said, fit dads. Like immediately. Well, I guess it makes sense. Anyway, no one's ever given me a free coffee. There's 3 key concepts that I've got 15 minutes left. Normally when we do a WOW day, we do a WOW masterclass, by the way, which is a whole day, like 7 hours. So I'm going to just pick some of my choicest bits now for the remaining 15 minutes that will be able to help you. So if you are interested, by all means, go on our WOW day. Listen to our podcasts. We've got lots of content on WOW. I'll send Jim and others the links. But here's the 3 things. Number 1, what can we do to elevate the journey? When I say elevate, what I mean is I think you've already got a journey, a process, a way of thanking, introducing people, telling them what they've done. Maybe when someone wins the lottery with you, you've got a way of celebrating that. This question is, what can I do to just create a peak moment that slightly elevates it? It doesn't mean I need to do something huge, and maybe it will cost me a little bit of money to begin with, but it will pay me back. What can I do to just elevate that ever so slightly? Sometimes it's not even changing the method, the medium that you're doing, it's just making a choice of what you say. Another one is WOW in person. We're going to have a look at a few ideas that people have done when they have been in person. So maybe, I don't know how you get people to sign up to your lottery, or if you've ever done a thanking day for people who've given for the longest, or if you've invited them to events or something, but there's some ideas that people do in person to get across the impact of choosing to play the lottery or to give each time. And then finally, something about learning the recipe. So elevate the journey. Do you know what's fascinating about humans? We love milestones, and we really like milestones, not just when we notice it, but many humans like milestones when others notice it too. I am old enough to remember my first ever Fitbit when they first came out, and I don't know if anyone else can remember this, but when you first walked 10,000 steps, can you remember what it did? Fireworks! It's like, oh my God, I'm amazing! Like 10,000 steps. And then it did it the next day and the next day and the next day, because it turns out most humans do just walk 10,000 steps. But Fitbit are absolute artists at appreciating and celebrating milestones. Does that make sense? And humans love milestones. So for instance, the data on death rates shows that an awful lot of people die after Christmas Day, after New Year's Day, after their birthday. Why? Because they want to see one last Christmas. They want to see one last New Year. They want to see one last birthday. That's weird. Are you telling me that I can dance with death and say, no, not today, death? Well, yes. And the book talks about the science behind that. I'm interested, our podcast, by the way, and I'm not advertising it right now because we have some sort of click per listen download thingy. I'm doing it because with 11 minutes left, I can't go deep on these topics. So here we have an interview with someone who has gone deep on these topics. And I tell you this because I got feedback at a conference recently. He was just advertising his podcast. I think he just wants subscriptions. I don't care about subscriptions. This costs us way more money than it makes. We do it because I like interviewing people who get extraordinary results, and I found when I listen to them, it helps me do something differently. Rachel is episode number 4. We've done 183. She's episode number 4. What Rachel did was they noticed some people who had decided to give more from a particular appeal this year than they had ever done previously. And they realized that they had I think it's 210 of them who had chosen. So if I normally spend £5, £5, £5, £10, £10, this year they decided to do 20 or 50. There was a stretch gift. Does that make sense? They'd stretched. So what did she decide to do? She decided to split out the 200 people. Half of them would get the normal thank you process that they do. The other half, the only thing they would change would be a handwritten thank you note. So she's like, I got lots of volunteers. We spent a whole morning. We had sweets, we had chocolates, we got pens, and we just wrote handwritten notes. But the note that we wrote to them was slightly different to what we'd normally do. In the note, we recognized the stretch that they had given. So for instance, they said, we've noticed you've given a particularly generous gift this time round. In fact, it has been this amount of money. So they said to the person who's made the slight shift, the slight change, we noticed you. Thank you. Probably because, and she said, Most people don't. Most people on their own account don't just suddenly choose to increase. That's right. So she said, you're different to most people. Thank you. You are different. Do you know what they found? The people who got that one change, one little elevation, gave 174% more on the identical appeal next year. If you're interested, listen to the episode. Fundraising Bright Spots episode number 4, one of the earliest ones. Rachel Catola, when she came on our mastery course, she was inspired by this. If you're interested, podcast episode 100, you only need to listen to half of it because she's the first half, but maybe you'll keep listening to the end. She said, do you know what wow means to me, Ben? Helping regular donors, helping people understand their impact. For me, it meant more phone calls. Like wow just meant a simple elevation of what I'd normally do, more phone calls to people who gave disproportionately more than others, or, in a lottery speak, maybe people who've won more than others. I don't know, maybe you've got some people on your lists, when you have a look, they just seem to have won more than others. I don't know about your data or how easy or hard it is to see that. What she does is she writes them more thank you cards every time she hears a story about their work. So Rachel's also featured in our storytelling content because every time she hears a real example about their work, not a massive case study, it could just be, you know those thank you cards that some of your clinicians and nurses have in the wards where someone said thank you to them? You know, when you get sent them, it could just be the story behind that thank you card. It's just a little sentence where today one of our nurses got a thank you from a family who said, I'm not sure what we'd have done without you. So she gets that quote, she puts it into a thank you card, she sends it to 20 people, handwrites it. Does that make sense? So it's not a massive case study, it's not even identifiable. It's just today, this week, this month, I heard something and it moved me. It helped me see the impact of what happens when people give. She sends those thank you cards. She had a donor who was giving £50 a month. He increased his amount to, at time of podcast, £1,000 a month. He went from 50 to £1,000 a month. And we caught up with Rachel last year. He's now giving £2,000 a month. And when she talked to him, he said, the way you communicate with me is different to any other organisation. Like any other charity, it's all fairly similar. Same sorts of emails, same sorts of content. He said, you're the only one that writes to me like you know me, like helping me to understand that. He said, in fact, your cards are on my fridge. Listen to the podcast episode because she talks about how that helps. That sounds like, oh, that's well done, Ben. She's got one off. No, she's on the episode because she's seen continuous growth. So the question is, across your whole journey, what's the little thing you might do that could be slightly different? With Gemma, it was her Christmas cards. She didn't like the standard Christmas card that they were doing. So what does she do? The ethics behind this, I'm unsure of, because I'm not from an animal conservation charity. But what I do know is their hospice has children who are too ill to go to a zoo or to pet a penguin. So there was a workshop where they brought the penguins to them. And the photos were amazing from it. And she saw the photos and they really moved her. They moved her far more than the Christmas cards. So what did Gemma do? She worked a little bit harder to get those photos that were really moving to be turned into Christmas cards. There they are. There's the photos with a few little snowflakes on them. She sent them with an impact report to her donors, and for the 20 donors who it was worth disproportionately more, because you can't wow with everyone, it's too much energy. So what about the ones that seem to be giving the most, who if we deepen that relationship, it's worth more? With those 20 donors, she actually paid to go to Etsy to get little penguin tree decorations to go alongside it. We're not sure if this is the reason why, but 2 weeks later, one of those 20, oh, it's not on the slide, whoops. 2 weeks later, one of those 20 gave a gift of £50,000 towards her hospice. £50,000. Gemma does loads of other things too, but I'm going to keep going now because we're going to do some other fun stuff. This is how we wow in person, when I'm actually in front of them. So maybe, I was signed up in person, so maybe there's something about how that exchange works. Maybe there's cool stuff you're already doing, and it's just about, in another book called Reset, it says, watch the process. If you sat and watched your lottery sign-ups in person at an event all day long with a pad just to watch them, just to see what's working, what isn't, like what might you notice? It's interesting. I was at a conference where someone from Sightsavers gave everyone some bubble wrap and the letter E, and what we had to do was take the bubble wrap and look through it, and the question she asked was, could you see the letter E when you looked through the bubble wrap? And you kind of could, but it was a bit blurry. And you felt like you were talking to a magician where they'd done the trick wrong, because you could still see it. And she said, fold the bubble wrap in half. Now look through it. Can you see the E? The E had gone. What can you see? Colour, shapes, that's about it. She said, fold the bubble wrap in half one more time. Now look through it. What can you see? Nothing. Just grey and darkness. And she said, what you've experienced is what someone with cataracts will experience with their eyesight in the space of 3 to 6 months if they don't have access to water or a health service. And the reason she knew this idea was because one particular team at Sightsavers had started raising dramatically more money than others, and when they hunted out why, there was one fundraiser who was taking cut-out letters E and bubble wrap to conversations, and then the rest of the team followed and copied. Does that make sense? So somewhere there is someone who might have a way of connecting people with your work. When I delivered this to the Stroke Association, by the way, the E is the thing you should always be able to see when you get your eyes tested. I like the speed with which it disappeared. When I did this at the Stroke Association, they then told me about the Starburst example. On your table is a packet of Starburst. Can you do something for me? Can one person just quickly open the Starburst? Have a look on your table, there's a packet of Starburst. Open the Starbursts and try and give as many people on the table a Starburst sweet as possible. There should be some on the Starburst. If you chose to sit at the back, you don't have Starburst, I'm afraid. There's even a sign that says you won't get free seats if you sit at the free sweets if you sit at the back. But I can chuck you some Starburst if you really need some. There you go. Grab a Starburst. Here's what she got us to do. Don't open the sweet yet. She said, get the Starburst sweet, pick it up in your preferred hand, the one you normally use. Now, pass it to your weaker hand, the one that you don't normally use, and using just your weaker hand, open and eat the Starburst sweet. Off you go, just your weaker hand. 3 minutes. It's annoying, it's tricky, I don't like it, Ben. Thanks very much. You're cheating, you're using your mouth. Yeah, cool. You're overachieving. Well done, whoever did it first. You can just eat it normally now. For others, I do have spare packs of Starburst if you would like a shot of sugar. Why did she say this? If someone suffers a stroke, it affects the circulation of blood in the brain. Brain cells die. They have to totally relearn sometimes how to coordinate, how to do things, and it is frustrating and exhausting. And if you are a member of a stroke volunteer group, then you need to have empathy to what that feels like, especially if you've never had a stroke. So she uses these to help somebody experience that feeling of frustration. Does that make sense? The thing I like most about this is she said this in a room of 20 people. The other 19 fundraisers had never heard that example before because their job didn't involve recruiting or training volunteers. So what did they do? Jo, in that team, copied it with glee. And when we caught up 6 weeks later, she was so excited because she turned up at a local event and she had handed out 24 Starbursts to 24 companies. And when it was her turn to talk about the Stroke Association, she got them to do this activity. 19 of the 24 companies were queuing up afterwards to get a coffee with her to talk about a partnership with the Stroke Association. I love that. Learn and share the secret recipe. This is Piglet. Piglet is the penguin that Demelza had at, I don't know if anyone here is here from Demelza? Yeah, hello. Piglet is the penguin that Demelza had at the Royal Arsenal Farmers Market in Woolwich, which is down the road from where I live. And I was there with my son. He was 5 at the time. And he saw the penguin, and he was like, I just want a penguin. And he'd been so annoying all day. And as you can tell already from the ice cream, I'm a lazy parent. So I was like, sure, Levi, let's buy the penguin. So I went over and said, how much do I need to donate to get the penguin? And he was like, oh, no, we're here for the lottery. I was like, I don't care. I'll just donate some money. Can I donate directly to get the penguin? He was like, I'm sorry, I can't do that today. He was like, but if you want, you can sign up to the lottery. It sounds like it's cheaper than how much you were willing to donate for the penguin. I was like, sure, I'll sign up to the lottery. So I signed up to Demelza's lottery. Woo! What I'm interested in is he had loads of cuddly toys, and I'm intrigued. If I were standing there with a pad watching normal lottery sign-ups to cuddly toy lottery sign-ups, does it work? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't have the same job as you. But the recipe says, can I learn what this is? When I worked with, I was with Leeds Hospitals charity, and when I did a session with them, the person who sells lotteries came up to me and he said, do you know what I've realised our recipe is? It's whenever I'm in a shopping centre talking about lotteries, it's normally so hard to get people to stop, apart from when I have our virtual reality headsets. Because the money that some of our fund that has come from our grants has gone on to pay for virtual reality headsets. This is a picture of a boy who's waiting to have a blood transfusion for chemotherapy, and one of the best ways, in fact he's having it done now, you can see it there, one of the best ways to stop him noticing the needle, to stop him noticing the pain, is to play with virtual reality headsets. And he said, when I have it there, families come up to me, they play, and they ask about it, and I tell them why, and I say, the only reason we can fund this is because of people who play the lottery. And he's like, the virtual reality set is the thing. I haven't really reflected on it before, but this is why it works so well, and it's chance as to whether I use it. It shouldn't be chance. Does that make sense? It should be a recipe that we try out. He even told me the story of when this boy, as a teenager, came running over to him in the shopping mall with his dad and was like, that's me, because it was him. He was the poster boy who was helped by Leeds Hospital Charity. If you ever choose to put on an event for people, maybe you want to do a big thank you event. Maybe you don't, but if you do, or a project visit, this is Andy's recipe. He has worked at St Francis Hospice in Romford for a while, maybe 12 years, and he said, when I do a project visit, there is a definite recipe that I follow when people come to my hospice. There's 3 things that it must be. Number 1, it must be on a Thursday. Because on a Thursday, one of our nurses works who is the best storyteller. Not on a Thursday, she's not there. I won't do it unless she's there, because she tells the best stories. She's so moving. I felt the pain, he said, of people coming and not hearing her stories. So on Thursdays, it must be Thursdays. Even if the donor can't do Thursdays, I'll say, nope, we'll do it next week or the week after. Because Thursdays are so important. It's at 11:15, because at 11:30, they have ABBA aerobics in the hospice. And he said when someone sees ABBA aerobics, their whole view of the hospice changes. And he also said, I always end it at the chapel. Because at the chapel, I don't know if your hospice has a chapel, but at the chapel we have a couple of stories that, as you can imagine, are quite moving about our work. He said, that's the journey. And people are moved by our project visits anyway. My project visits, they're moved loads. 6 weeks later, Mel and his team had 2 brothers who were local philanthropists who had never pledged before. They gave sporadically and they gave smaller amounts than they thought they could. They were coming in for a visit. What did she do? She copied Andy's recipe. And on our catch-up, she said, by the time I got to the chapel, I finished story 1 and they pledged more money than they've ever given before for the next 3 years. And she's like, all I had to do was copy the recipe. So my question to you is, have a reflect. You've got a workshop now, but have a think. What are the 3 to 5 strategic moments that might be worth elevating across your journey? Take this back to your teams. Have a think. Is it the sign-up? Is it when they first give for the first week? Is it within the first month? Is it a year of when they've started giving? Is it when someone wins? How do you celebrate someone winning? People's postcode lottery style? I don't know. Study what currently happens. I.e., look at, and I don't mean to be rude, look at the dull card or email. But often when I send out stuff that I just always do, it ends up not being as exciting as it could be if I wowed it. So what's the stuff that I could wow? And then just brainstorm options with your team. Find 1 or 2 things that are doable, but have a high wow factor. Speaking of wow factors, underneath someone's chair is a golden ticket. So because you're sporadically sat, I'm not even sure where it will be. You might have to look under someone else's. But it's like here. At this bit on someone's chair, you might be able to feel for it, is a golden ticket. Has anyone got that golden ticket? Have a feel, have a look. You might have to just have a look under chairs. Whoever's nearest that chair, you have won if you're not on that chair. I can't really remember. Sorry to the team who have to... No, it's not there. Has anyone got that golden ticket? It is somewhere. Woohoo! Well done. You got a golden ticket. Congratulations. Woohoo! What does it say on the golden ticket? Yeah, there you go. That is your own copy of the Power of Moments book. If you are feeling left out, we have done a little handbook that can help inspire you and some of your supporters. By all means, scan that QR code. That's my email address. I've got way more than 30 minutes worth of content, to be fair, but I've really enjoyed chatting to you. Thank you very, very much for all of your time. Good luck with your lotteries. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ben. That was just so much fun. Thank you for all you shared. Into our last series of workshops now, and then back in here for another fantastic session with Les this afternoon.